Hi, everybody. I'm going to give this a minute to make sure my guest can join me live tonight. I'm waiting for my dear friend Lisa to hop on and join us. Lisa, hopefully you see a link. Bring them on video. Okay, Lisa, I'm sending you an invite. See if we can get you queued up here. Shows that you're being added. Bear with us a minute here while we get Lisa queued in. Okay, Lisa, I'm going to try again. It's going to send you like an invite link that you should be able to click on or accept. There you are.
I had to change my settings and then the invite went away. So I'm like, oh crap. So here I am.
There you are. Hello.
Hi. Long time no chat.
Right, but literally like long time no see. And I was thinking about that a little bit ago before, we hopped on here, that you and I have talked a lot, but I haven't seen you.
I know.
And then I was thinking, haven't we been FaceTiming from time to time? So
isn't that funny?
yeah.
Here we are.
Right.
Finally.
Right. So yeah, I don't know how many people will be able to join us live, but that's okay. We can still have this conversation, and it'll post, and people can tune into it later.
Whoever needs to hear it, it'll go out into the ethers.
That's right. That's right. It all trickles out. But I wanted to give people just a little bit of background of who you are or how we know each other. I can let people know who I think you are, but you can let people know who you are. But I met Lisa 15 years ago in January 2010 at a conference, a weekend intensive conference up near Chicago. I don't remember the name of the conference. I'm sure there was like a name, like a title for the theme.
I can't either.
I don't remember, but it was just one teacher, who Lisa and I were learning from at that, point in our journey. His name was Robert Ohado. It was a small, intimate group of us. It was a great weekend. We went to see Avatar at the weekend that it released, and we were like in the third row with like 3D glasses on or something, and the theater was like packed full, right?
Oh, it was great.
Yeah. But I don't remember, obviously everything about the content of that weekend. But when I think back to that weekend, there's one thing that our teacher said that I've never forgotten. And that was, at a point in the weekend when he was talking about, back then in 2010, we were kind of talking about how the age of Aquarius was coming, you know, that shift of those energies and alignments, you know, was coming. But I just remember him saying that, you know, the age of Aquarius, or this new way, was really about shifting from looking to an outside authority or an outside teacher, like a guru, a teacher, a messiah, a savior, you know, that we were going to be shifting from looking to anything outside of ourselves and learning to access the inner authority,
Yeah.
our inner authority. So it was a shift from that outer whomever to the inward, which really is the basic foundation for my content here with the soul of the Great Awakening. It's about making that inner shift, right? Reclaiming it, reclaiming that divinity, learning, you know, how to really tune into your inner authority, to live from that sacred space, because that's really ultimately what all this chaos opportunity shift is really all about, is that shift from the outer authority to the inner authority.
Right.
So I remember that really profoundly, you know, being taught by Robert, you know, that weekend. And reclaiming, you know, that inner authority leads us to self-sovereignty, right? Mm-hmm. Which then is going to lead us to like social sovereignty or global sovereignty. And I think it's important to kind of remind people that it's the inner shift that happens first. It's the reclaiming it for ourselves first that's going to lead us into doing it in groups, in countries, in communities, nations, like, you know, however that may play out. But we have to stop looking for it to happen for us through some kind of outer structure, like they're going to do it, they're going to set the stage, you know. No, like, we have to do the inner work first. So when I think about you and think about like what we were going to be talking to tonight, because we titled this Practical Ways for Chaotic Days. You know, one, you know, you're highly intuitive. You've always been like highly intuitive, but you're my really pragmatic, practical, you know, friend who brings all this like kind of into the everyday reality, you know, like really grounding it all, very, very practical ways, very pragmatic ways. And I also think that you have a lot of energy as a really beautiful, like, creative artist. And when I say creative artist, I don't just mean in some of the art forms, you know, that we may associate it with, but you're just really, really creative. And that leads you into kind of that pragmatic, you know, kind of practical force. Mm-hmm. But what else have you seen, like, from your journey that you might want to add?
Wow. Well, you know, it's been a journey, and I think every evolution of, you know, every shift that I've gone through has taught me something more and helped me trust myself more. So, and trust my intuition more. And that inner knowing that I'm like, I might be going against the tide, but I'm going to trust what's right for me. And yeah. And, you know, I've gone through hard times. I've gone through great times, and learning to be resilient through those and creative. I think creativity is a huge thing right now that we need to, all of us need to go back and start getting creative in trying to find solutions to the problems that we see.
Yes.
And what a perfect example of the egg shortage that we have right now. You know, symbolically, what does that mean? The egg is about creation. You know, you know, we're short on our creativity right now. And like you said, we can't look to outside sources all the time to be our savior, you know, and we have to start coming along and creating our own solutions, and enjoying the process of that. It doesn't have to be a grind. It can be fun.
Right.
You know, I just pulled a loaf of sourdough out of the oven. It smells good.
Yeah.
I was almost late for the camera because I'm like, come on, bake.
Yeah.
But I love baking. I love growing my own food. I live in a condo, so I grow hydroponically.
Yeah.
Everybody can learn and grow and create and do new things. And I think that will help sustain us in this shift we're going through, because we're going to shift. It's a given.
Yeah,
It's,
there's no stopping.
right.
It's really just what part of the shift are you going to get caught up on? Are you going to be that resilient human, that creative human, that divine human, and write it into something new, or you're going to get washed away and kind of stay attached to the, you know, this kind of cumbersome 3D reality that we're living now?
Yeah.
Because I see it as well, it's a consciousness, so
Well,
we'll grow.
who do you want to be during a shift?
Yeah.
Do you want to be the one complaining and pointing fingers, or do you want to be part of a solution and a resilient community?
Right.
You know, do you want to divide, or do you want to connect?
Right.
You know, and what are those activities that can connect us all together?
Yeah.
Despite differences, because our differences are what is going to help save us.
Right.
In the end,
That's
we all have unique differences, and you know, we may, you know, not agree on certain things, but our differences are what combined are going to help us transition into whatever this shift is about, because it's not about the old school. You know, I used to do astrology, and when Pluto went through Capricorn, you know, since 2008 until now that, you know, Pluto is in Aquarius, that whole transition was there to help bring out the shadow of Capricorn, the shadow of our systems, the shadow of our governments, the shadow of structure, the shadow of the lack of personal responsibility, you know. And so now all of that's dug up and revealed. What are we going to do with that? You know?
Yeah. And, you know, I have said this in, you know, one form or another since I've started, you know, sharing this content, you know, in whatever way over the past, you know, like probably 5 years now, talking about, you know, that we're creating a new paradigm, we're going into a new paradigm. And I didn't even really even realize like the full effect of what those words mean until I was just listening to it being taught or spoken of, like by Penny Kelly. And she was talking about a new paradigm, and she's like, it's a new paradigm. It's like everything is new. Everything is new. And it's not like other points of evolution in humanity, you know, looking back over, you know, the thousands of years and how humanity has evolved. You know, like, you know, maybe like we shifted out of an industrial age or a manufacturing age, or, you know, it's not just one aspect of our ways of being that's changing. It's a complete collapse of every structure that has been put into place that we become familiar with, good or bad. It's comfortable because it's what we know, right? Mm-hmm. But all of those systems are collapsing, all of them. You know, we're going to need a new healthcare system, new, completely new, not, you know, just tweaked a little, like completely new. We're going to need a new food, you know, supply chain, new education systems, eventually new government. Like it's all collapsing. So when I think about that, I mean, like what you said, like when we first got on, like instead of being overwhelmed, like, oh my God, I have to change so much. It's like when you tune inward, you kind of will be drawn out to maybe create in a way through something that you enjoy, right? Because maybe that's your gift and that's your passion and that's something that you can offer. Like, and Penny Kelly again was just talking about this, and you know, what can you learn to do? What can you learn to do that you can offer in a community setting, you know, that would be sustainable, like for everyone. You're taking out a loaf of sour bread. If we lived closer to each other, I would come get a sourdough start from you.
Right.
But I'm taking a sourdough class, this Saturday.
Oh, that's great.
And I also, yeah, I also like to bake, and kind of, every year we try and do something a little bit more with our garden in way of what can we grow, how can we preserve it, utilize it throughout however many months, that'll last. But yeah, someone else's passion or skill, might be, someone might be, really technically inclined, and, we're going to need those people, or people who know how to work on small motors, or just people that have good leadership skills and keeping a community of people cohesive. So yeah, we need to be diverse, we need to be all different. And that kind of leads me to, I woke up this morning, I was just kind of trying to feel out the energies, and everything felt kind of heavy, actually, and I thought I had like an image in mind, and I'm like, nope, that's not it for today. And I looked back through some old memes and pictures and things that I'd saved, and I came across the one that I shared today, which had the little quote, "First keep peace with yourself, then you can also bring peace to others." And right now, obviously, there's so much division, there's so much hatred, there's so much blame. Somehow we've gotten ourselves, there's a lot of the population who aren't political at all, who don't vote at all, who don't pay attention at all, really. But somehow I feel like we as a collective, we're either one or the other now. You're either here, you're either here. And I'm like, wait a minute, like, no, like, we're so much more, like there's so much more to us. But anyway, the hatred and the division, we all know, I don't need to say it, it's thick, and it's really, really heavy. And I was having a conversation with another friend this afternoon, and she works a lot with people, kind of one-on-one, coaching them, kind of helping them, especially right now, because there's so many people who are frantic and in fear and really troubled. So her load of helping people navigate is pretty heavy. But she made a comment. She's like, yeah, and it's just started. Like, we haven't even hit like the crisis point yet. And I was thinking about that, and I've said it, on these lives, that it's only going to intensify. It's only going to accumulate. There's only going to be more and more and more dismantling, because unfortunately, we are part of that shift. Those of us who are here now, who are going to have to learn to weather the storm of the dismantling of the old while trying to create the new. Like, it's not just flipping from one switch to the other switch, right? But when she said that, like, we haven't even reached the crisis point, I was kind of like, oh my gosh, like, if this is where we're at now in the beginning stages, like, I don't want to say I'm afraid for people, but like, oh my gosh, like, if we can't kind of get it together now, like, what's going to happen? And you made some statements when we first started talking about doing this live together. I'll let you maybe say it for yourself, but you said you can't access your intuition when you're in chaos. And so let's talk a little bit about that constant fear that we are under, like, literally all the time, because that's the way whoever they are, have created our reality for us. They're just sitting there constantly pushing those buttons of fear, chaos, confusion, fear. It's not even a sophisticated system or whatever that they're using. It's just constantly bombarding us. And And I heard another gal that I follow say, yeah, you know, even people who are fairly awake and fairly conscious and fairly intuitive, it's it's difficult even for those people just because there's just so much fear and confusion like constantly.
Yeah,
So
and it's a matter of what you tune into as well. You know, the algorithms on our social medias feed into whatever you're focusing on. So, you know, you're going to see everybody's feed is customized to them, to what they are perceiving. And it's almost like a, you know, you're creating your own echo chamber. Every time you click on something that affirms a belief that you might have, you have to actively go out and seek different information in order to try to find a balanced perspective, a bigger picture. But a lot of people want their belief systems validated, and so you know your whole feed right there is validating it through AI. And I heard about this study recently that was done, and it's like 60% of social media is just bots and fake accounts. So what are they,
crazy.
you know, and those instigators also affect your own perception. And so there's people out there purposely trying to create fear. And so if you're in fear and you're like wrapped up in the social media and the news, look around you. What is your actual reality? You know, some of us are going to have realities that are very comfortable, and others, like, you know, say North Carolina or South Carolina right now with fires, or LA, their reality is very different. And you bet they're not worried about whose political affiliation it is when you're in a situation like that. You come together and help each other, and trying to maintain a sense of peace and balance in your own life is like putting on your own oxygen mask
Yeah.
so that you can help others when there's a situation like that.
Yeah.
And you know, doing whatever it takes, whether it's meditation, you know, maybe challenge yourself to, you know, we all have our little, you've been on, your screen time this week was blah blah blah, challenge yourself to, you know, decrease that
Yeah.
10% every week or whatever, and get outside, connect with nature. That's the most grounding thing we can do.
Yeah.
And you know,
Sure is.
our own sense of peace inside affects people when we walk into a room. And you can balance a whole room without even trying, just because you're working on your own inner groundedness and your own sense of not control, but just like, I'm okay and I'm going to be okay. I
Yeah.
might not have control over what's going on outside of me, and
Yeah.
I might not have control of who's in office, or you know what's the egg prices or whatever, but I can do things that hold my center and that get creative, that create solutions around those problems. And it is going to come to community. It's not about the bigger they out there, whoever they are. It's more about we in our immediate communities, your
Right.
neighbor down the street,
Right.
your town, you know, that kind of thing. We need to really focus on connecting at a local level, and coming together to be prepared for change.
Yeah. And none, I mean, well, we try and predict it a lot, but I mean, it's rapid fire right now. Like rugs are being pulled out from underneath people, like kind of left and right. I don't necessarily see that easing up. I don't necessarily see that feeling, you know, any better.
Yeah.
You and I, especially you, um, and then, you know, I have, you know, here in more recent time as well. But you've always kind of tuned into a lot of teachers, a lot of people who are talking about how to be prepared, how to build these communities, and kind of brainstorming. And you and I both listened to the same podcast today with the group called the Quartet. And I thought it was great because all four of them kind of gave examples of like what qualities do they see in creating a new paradigm.
Right.
You know, and some of the, you know, people said, you know, like truth, simplicity, but one of them said beauty. She's like, we don't tap into beauty anymore. And when I mean, just really liked hearing that word. And when I think of beauty, I think of how it relates to kind of the golden rule of do no harm. And which also leads me to something else that I heard someone say, probably like in the, maybe it's been within the last year now. But she was talking about, she was more talking about like coming into like your purpose, right? And maybe kind of like your dharmic path. But she was saying, talking about positive solutions for positive change, and how anything that we're creating for the new, anything that we're creating, no one or nothing should suffer because of what you're creating.
Yeah.
And that to me is kind of that concept of beauty.
Yeah.
Creating something like beautiful, which means that everyone, getting kind of goosebumps, everyone will benefit from that.
Right.
You know, so she used the example of like, maybe your passion is fashion. Maybe you really love fashion, you know, but how can you take that love of fashion and clothing and textiles and maybe come over here and create some sort of like new fabric or new something, that's not reliant on like a slave system of, you know, like like a children's slave system, you know, like producing your clothing line,
The
right?
fashion industry is the worst. I mean,
Right.
it's terrible.
And our
I
whole,
upcycle, you know.
yeah, and
Mhm.
really our entire old paradigm has been based on a slave system of suffering and struggling.
Mhm.
Suffering and struggling. Someone's suffering, someone's struggling, like just the hardship of it all, right? But so this new paradigm and this paradigm shift is coming into what I call solutions, you know, heart-based solutions that are in alignment of that kind of highest order golden rule of do no harm.
Yeah.
You know, and thinking about ways, you know, like what's your passion and how can you shift that in a way, bring that forward in a way where no one is struggling or suffering because of, you know, what it is that you want to create.
Right. And if you're in joy, you're not going to harm somebody either.
Right. And when you're in soul, right?
Right. They're happy people. If you're connected in joy and passion with whatever you're doing, you
Yeah.
don't innately go out to hurt people.
Yeah.
Or, you know, and that comes down to right to like a social media post. You know, what are you creating in that moment?
Right.
And you put it out in the ethers. Are you doing harm to someone, or are you
And
bringing like some sort of hope or beauty, even if it's posting like a beautiful sunset or something like that, you know?
yeah.
Even
So
it can be as simple as that.
today I posted a picture of my cat without any words. I just posted a picture of my cat.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter texted me. She's like, Mom, why you, her name's Juniper. We call her Junie. Mom, why you post a picture of Junie? And I'm just like, you know, I just feel really heavy hearted today. And I wanted to put something out there that was uplifting, you know? And I'm not, I think, you know, personal awareness too, right? Because I am aware of some of the things I might believe and some of my own biases and assumptions. And I'm aware that I may not be like right about it, whatever that might be. But when I come forward, like through my social media and definitely through the content of, you know, the Soul of the Great Awakening, I'm very, very, very mindful of my words, what I'm putting out there, and that I'm not presenting anything in any way that would be interpreted of creating more division.
Right.
You know, I might challenge some people, you know, making that journey inward and get, you know, reclaiming that divinity and trying to come from that place. So I talk a lot about living your truth, and something that I haven't said yet on these Facebook Lives, when I'm talking about living your truth, I'm talking about it like in alignment, right? Kind of like with your divinity or, with your soul. I'm not talking about it being in alignment with your ego. So it's not like coming forward like, well, this is my truth. And I like this. It's not that truth is based in your ego. That's kind of being self-righteous, right?
Mm-hmm.
And entitled and all of those things. So when I'm talking about living your truth, I'm talking about living like your inherent kind of soul truth. And because it's your soul truth, because it's the God within or the heart space or, whatever you want to define it as, that truth ultimately, innately, and inherently, naturally is in the highest good of all.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're operating from that space, living your truth isn't selfish. It's not about you. Living your truth will bring forth what's in the highest good of all, which includes you, but includes the all. So it's all inclusive in that respect. But there's when we talk about getting out of the fear and things. What are some things that maybe we don't think of as being fear-based? Like what are some archetypes or some kind of personal wounds or collective wounds that, because we're not, when we say the word fear in that context, we don't necessarily mean like, oh my God, there's a bomb coming, or like not that kind of fear, but some of those like basic kind of human wounds. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and vulnerabilities that we all have, and like maybe it's not about fear, it's just more about connection and what keeps us from wanting to connect, that vulnerability that we need to we might have to reveal ourselves. When it really comes down to it, survival fear is it's what we see going on a lot in the collective right now. If you break it down question by question by question by question, the bottom line is I'll be abandoned and I'll die. Right? And how many people want to be understood right now and heard? And that's because maybe they feel like they're not included in a group, and they want to connect. And some of the posts out there, you might go, why are you posting that? But this person might need to be heard and feel included and wants to connect, but maybe it's not the best way to go about it if you're pushing people away. But I think archetypally right now, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, if you go with COVID, we're working up. I wonder if it's almost like a Kundalini kind of thing. So, like, we started with the root chakra, toilet paper, right? There was no toilet paper.
Right.
So that affects your root chakra. Now we're into eggs, right? That's our second chakra. What's the third chakra going to be? It'll be interesting. But is it like these little situations are awakening us in a way, like in this outside weird, Kundalini kind of thing through the chakras and the supply chain, which is kind of funny. But I was like, I wonder what the third, the fourth, the fifth chakra, what's the shortage, what do we need to heal too? It's about healing. And if you're in fear of something, there's something that needs to be healed. It's not about making the fear go away. It's about facing whatever that fear is triggering in you.
Yeah.
And how do you respond to it instead of react?
How do you respond to it? I was, in a conversation, with my friend today, I was talking about how, like from a divine perspective or kind of a higher perspective, and I'm not really opening the door for politics, but what I just want to say is we are having the collective experience that we kind of signed up for and that we've chosen to have at this moment. Like I saw someone post something, you know, about like in context to something, you know, but like it's disrupting the peace. And I'm like, well, yeah, like the whole thing is meant to disrupt the peace.
Right.
Like there's no breaking down of old systems. There's no opportunities for healing. There's no opportunity for a new way of being. Yeah, I mean, we can't go through this shift without it not being peace. It's like, but the point is we're meant to be the peace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is the collective experience that we are having, whether we voted for it, didn't vote for it, like it, don't like. I mean, we are here. If anything, I think that we can all agree that Trump is the great destructor.
Of course, that's his role right now.
That's his role.
And it's to you to take control. He should not have control over your emotions.
Right.
That's your job. That and your reactions to things. So disrupting the peace, well, how do you create peace in your own life? Is it based on something outside of you? And
exactly, full circle to the start of our conversation, right?
Exactly. It all is an inside job.
Yeah.
And yes,
instead of looking for something outside of ourselves to do it the right way, do something, you know, that support, you know, just no, that's not going to happen, and it's not meant to happen, because that old paradigm is going away. And here's the opportunity of self-sovereignty and self-peace. And like you said, this is where we're at in this process of evolution. I remember hearing like 5 years ago, you know, through one of my teachers, that it was the most monumental shift that humanity has ever gone through, because it's not just, again, like a little change, like little changes. It's our whole way of being. It's our whole level of consciousness. So it's extremely challenging, extremely, and massive. So here we are. What are we going to do with it? How are we going to show up? And you know, you cannot go through it, or at least with any probably resemblance of sort of groundedness, hopefulness, peacefulness, without going inward. You're not. If we cannot find our center, our peace within, we're going to get swept away and by this tsunami. I mean, and just get like rolled over by it.
Right. And it's not a perfect process. And peace doesn't mean that you're, you know, out in the field and la 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 happy. And no, it's not like this unicorn rainbow thing. Inner peace, I mean, you can still be angry and have emotions, and it's a messy process too. But coming back, and how long does it take you to come back to yourself?
Yeah.
That's one thing I've learned in my healing journey, is like I could real quick, I can like dwell on something for weeks way back then, and then, or years, and now I'm like 5 minutes, or if at all, you know. So what's your response time to outside stimuli that upsets your peace?
That's exactly right. And you know, I when I had my business Simply You, one of the like posts or images that I had made was kind of like a wrinkled sheet on a bed or something, and the quote was, "Peace doesn't always look pretty." So yeah, it's not about being perfect, and like you said, it's definitely not about like butterflies and rainbows, or you know, anything like that. You know, and you said something about anger. Like, there's nothing wrong with being angry.
No,
not at all. Right now, be angry, but how are you going to channel that? Angry can be a excellent emotion for motivation, for change, to take charge of something. It can be a really good fuel. So what are you going to do with that anger? Are you going to perpetuate more division into the collective, or blame some, or are you going, to channel it or funnel it in a way that's, more, that builds yourself, like helps you
Yeah.
self-resilient or self-sustainable, or, what are you gonna,
Yeah,
that's where we're at now. Like, this is it. It is messy. It's not gonna get any prettier. It's most likely gonna get more intense.
mm-hmm.
What are we gonna do with it? How are we gonna show up with it?
Right. And anger is like a knife. Like I could like slice a loaf of bread with it and share a slice, or I could hurt somebody with it.
Oh,
Anger, it's your choice on how you choose to use that emotion, and if you want to go protest, fine, but do it in a way that you're not harming property or someone
yeah,
else. You know, um,
yeah. Or do
yeah,
it in a way that's, I don't know, trying to bring back, like, unity, right? And not, or
right.
it, I mean, none of us are going to show up perfectly in
Oh,
this. I mean,
right.
you're going to mess up. I'm going to mess up. Like, we're all going to mess up. We're probably going to say things that we wish we hadn't said, or get involved with drama that, even just reading something on Facebook this day, can really change your mood for the day, right? You can allow it to.
If you let it,
If you
right.
exact, that's what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Yeah.
you could, So that's why. I mean, I try to. I'm trying to be the observer and know, like, kind of what's happening, and kind of observe, like, how it's triggering people, how it's, affecting people. I'm trying very hard, obviously, not to add any fuel to that, which is why, you and I have had these conversations for years now. You know that this has always been like a strong part of, like, who I am. And
Mm-hmm.
if I finally just hit me in the face about a month ago, like, oh, you you're needed, or, this is needed to kind of help remind people that it's about the inner healing, the inner shift, the reclaiming of our, sovereignty, following that intuitive guidance. And like we've said, though, you cannot access your intuition. You cannot find clarity. You can't access even your creativity, because creativity is really like a soul quality, in its most magical form.
Yeah.
And we just can't access those parts of ourselves if we're not somehow making that inward journey, and, trying to shut off more of, the outer voices, and not get too attached.
Well, and too, when you're in fear or anxiety or, emotions like that, you're not really, it puts in a different part of your brain where you're not really able to access your intuition
You're
or your creativity at all.
No,
Yeah.
I just, this past weekend, Friday through Sunday, I took a weekend intensive class on expanding your consciousness with Penny Kelly. And
Mm-hmm.
the first level class was honestly all about, like, the science of the brain. She's like, you need this as your foundation. You need to understand how you're made and how you're wired, right? Before we can, work on other aspects of, like, expanding that consciousness. But she talked a lot about how stress severely limits your consciousness, and almost like a drug that puts you into an altered state. That
I could believe that. Yeah, totally.
Yes, and that when we, like, store up stress in the body, like, it's got to have an outlet, or those chemical, like, stress produces a chemical response in the body, and those chemical responses throw off so many of our systems in our body, our hormones and this and that, and a lot of the way, and it interferes with, the functioning of the brain and the access, to our consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So, and right now, I mean, stress is on high alert, I think, for everybody.
Yeah, and part of that too is being prepared, like we've talked about, is like
Yeah.
have supplies. We see that there's fires that in places where we don't expect fires. There's floods in places where we don't expect floods. There's economic downturns. You know, there's so many reasons or things that can cause stress in the immediate moment. But, you know, I'm really big about preparedness and having food on hand, and not just a week's worth. I'm talking 2 to 3 months worth of food. Um, and having backup power. You know, do you have, you know, flashlights? What's your water system look like? Do you have a water filter? I'm really big in being prepared because, again, it's like putting on your oxygen mask. If you're prepared, then you can help somebody else. You can be grounded in the sense that your immediate life needs are taken care of, and you don't have it gives you the chance to, like, okay, I can think straight. You know, I don't have to worry about food because, you know, the grocery stores are all closed for some reason, or the grid went down, or whatever. I mean, there's so many different reasons. um, I'm really big on being prepared as part of your peace plan, quite frankly. You know, and how do you maintain a grounded sense of peace inside?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because all those things are taken care of, if those events should happen, like you said, in any way that they might, um, then you're freed up for more creative energy, more clarity. You're not scrambling just to survive. Um, you know, there's a gal that I found her YouTube channel after the North Carolina floods hit, because obviously there were so many little YouTubes and little reels out there from people from North Carolina. I can't remember her name or her channel. I might have sent it, I think I sent it to you a long time ago. But she already had a YouTube channel about preparedness and about self-sustainability. And she does a lot of the hydroponic, you know, growing and
Oh yeah.
yeah, I sent it to you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, as I'm like watching all these little reels and little videos from people from North Carolina, I stumbled on her, and she's been like really interesting. But yeah, she was in a position when that happened, and thankfully their property wasn't too damaged. But because they were in that position, they were able to help like so many people. So
Yeah. You know, I loved, I found a lot of different channels, like YouTube channels during that time. And it was just amazing to watch how people came together. And again, no one's going to come to save you. And that's where, you know, are we trying to look for a savior in other people or in other systems or the government? You know, North Carolina, those people came together. People came up from states far away with their backhoes and their
yeah.
saws and their food, and the Amish came and built homes. And I mean, people from all over different regions came together to help these people, and and rebuilt roads before, you know, anybody even came in to assess the situation from the state or federal. I mean, the road was fixed, you know, and it wasn't perfect, but it was accessible to help. So it's amazing what we can do in a situation like that.
Yeah.
And but she was able to go feed people that came to town and helped out. You know, I was watching, she had people in her yard in tents and such that were
Yeah.
helping build the tiny homes that she was getting out to the community, and
Yeah.
she fed them all. And, you know, she had her own hydroponic gardens inside, you know, and so there's so
Yeah.
much I find, you know, um, as challenging as these times can be for people, I find this time to be very, very exciting in the sense that there's so much things we can create
Yeah.
and change. Like during COVID,
Right.
people homeschooled. A lot of people started the homeschooling and brought groups together to help school their children with, you know, okay, you take this day, you take that day, and you teach the science, you teach, and you know, we're learning different ways. The homestead thing is really gaining speed. There's, I think, situations, change is hard, and we don't like it because that means we might have to let go of something that we thought,
Yeah.
and our perception of it was, oh, this is always going to be like this, so I can bank on and plan my life on it. But life has different plans sometimes, and I find this time to be exciting in the sense of what can we change and create.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's, you know, a shift in consciousness and a shift in mindset. And I find it a little, you know, because I think I like a good challenge sometimes more than I would admit, but it's almost like, ooh, you know, like what can we do here? You know, and I know I've been through enough hardship in my life that I know that the blessings are in the hardships, you know, the gifts are in the hardship. And um, so as we kind of wind down here, we've been at the end here, we were talking about preparedness, and I just kind of want to say to anyone who tunes into this that, you know, when you're considering being prepared for whatever it is, you know, again, it may be a natural disaster, it could be a power grid failure, you know, who knows. Even in that, don't come to it approached from a place of fear,
No,
like, oh my God, I'm afraid.
it's insurance.
It's insurance, it's power, it's no, you know, do it from a place of, you know, yeah, just knowing that you're taken care of, and knowing that if something happens, that I'll be able to take care of others. And yeah, that from that place. But
well, like we just had a horrible snowstorm like last night and the past couple of days, and the highway I-70 was shut down for 7 hours, and people were stuck on the highway and couldn't get off for 7 hours in a storm. And you know, this is another thing: have preparations in your car in case you get stuck somewhere. Doesn't have to be because of the weather either. You never know
right,
what might happen to impede your access to get home right away. So have some supplies in the car as well. It doesn't have to be complicated, and it can be a gradual thing. You know, a lot of people use money as an excuse. Buy 5 cans a week, you know, of something, you know, $5, $5 to $10 a week, and you'll be well on your way to having some supplies. And again, I look at it as insurance. You know, you cover your car, you have homeowners insurance, you have renters insurance. Why wouldn't you have supplies as an assurance to give you time to
and
think and be, yeah, and help somebody else?
right. And I was thinking about you know, because you know, like Penny Kelly was talking about, one of the things that's going to change is like our food supply chain, you know, that whole, and I thought, you know, even just with the news a little while back that, you know, they might be pulling like red dye, you know, out of our food chain. How many foods actually contain red dye? Probably like so many.
A lot.
You know,
If you look
so like
at those
got rid of like even just the red dye foods. But what, you know, if we are truly moving in this more healthy era, and you know, we have people maybe fighting for us to get rid of the toxins out of our foods, and the poisons out of our foods, and all of these chemicals and additives that are banned, you know, like in all these other countries, like if we really embrace the movement of shutting down the manufacturing of all of these foods that contain all of these contaminants, Lisa, there wouldn't be anything left in the stores.
And it would be great to have some cooking classes, get together with your friends and learn how to cook using whole foods, right?
Growing some of our own foods, or form some community gardens and or something, because literally that we get so much food. I mean, we should not be getting our meat from China.
Yeah.
We shouldn't,
Right.
you know, we shouldn't be getting, but you know what I mean? Like, so in lots of different ways, if it gets interfered with, you know, because we're cleaning up, you know, the way we make our foods, or if the um, supply chains, like the importing and exporting, gets shut down. I mean, we have evolved so far from, we have more people growing their own foods and this
Yeah.
and that. I mean, um, yeah, like if it all just shut down, like,
It's going to go more local. We're going to have to really learn how to source ourselves and resource ourselves locally. So, what can, try not buying something from Amazon, and what can, for me, I'm in the mountains. So I hardly ever buy from Amazon unless it's something so special that I have to, and mostly it's when I need to, like, okay, I want that solar battery system or something. And because we don't have a lot of stores up
yeah,
here. But other than that, I mean, I sew, I knit, if I can make it, I'll make it. There's this great little undies pattern called Wonder Undies, and you can sew your own undies, and I upcycle. So chop up an old sweater and make some, mittens if I need them, or, and it's fun for me. I love that. But it's going to become more local, and
yeah,
learn skills and meet people who have different skills. And
yeah,
if times get hard, we can trade and teach each other and get together and
yeah.
create things together. And it doesn't have to be this whole calamity, and times might feel like a calamity. And I think the way I see it too, it's going to be in pods. We'll see it happen here, we'll see it happen there. It's not, I don't think it'll be, so big. And so we'll have adaptation time to adjust.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, it was fun
We've
chatting
had,
and good to see you. I don't know why we don't do FaceTime more often.
well, sometimes I think
Funny.
like you're cleaning and
Yeah.
like we're doing like other things like while we're talking to each other.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you so much because I honestly, can't imagine like navigating through this without being able to connect with you.
I agree, and I'm so grateful for you in the same for the same
Yeah.
reason. We need to be having conversations like this. And despite differences in this country right now, there's a lot more that we have in common, and
Yeah.
we need these conversations to connect.
There is always more that we have in common than what we don't. I mean, honestly, we all want to be healthy, to be provided for, to be connected, to be valued, to be able to live our truth,
Right.
unapologetically, and that's what a New Earth community, global community someday, hopefully, will be. It's not about us all living the same and thinking the same. It's about us honoring and accepting, the differences. I mean, true unconditional love and acceptance
Yeah.
of one another. Right now,
And
we have a lot of, I think, people interfering with us with kind of like, wanting us, they want us to be divided. Okay.
right.
They want us
And again, that's where, like, 60% of social media is just fake. And a lot of that's feeding into trying to divide us even more.
to,
And so, I would challenge anybody listening to this, try to find somebody you can connect with and have this type of conversation and get creative and go, hey, what can we do? And
yeah,
and even if nothing ever happened, you would be still living a more creative, purposeful life and having fun doing it, like
yeah.
it,
And that's what the inner
it's
shift is all about.
benefits all around to me. That's the way I see it.
Well, exactly. And that is the ultimate expression of, making that interconnection and living from that sovereign space. You know, that is sort of the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
And that sort of kind of takes care of everything. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Ultimately,
Ultimately. And just, a message for everybody. It's going to be okay.
Right.
It's just going to be okay. And having that knowing, like, just real quick, like 2011, my business failed. I lost my home. I had zero. I spent all my retirement, everything, to try to hold on, and I was clinging to something that was supposed to transition, but my clinging to it made the process that much worse. And so I was just zero as a single mom.
Yeah.
And I survived, and I'm here, and I'm fine, and I learned to trust the universe to provide.
That's right. Because ultimately, no matter how we're provided for, ultimately it's like it's through the universe.
Yeah. And it wasn't like I wished it around. I sat in my chair and like, oh, please provide. I work.
Right.
I work hard. And
maybe we can have that conversation next time. But what I learned
yeah,
in my relationship with working with the universe, God, source, what that divine connection is, you have to go first.
Yeah.
You go first,
Exactly.
and then God meets you.
Mm-hmm.
And you go first and then God meets you, but it's not a spectator sport, is it? It's an active participant.
No. Not at all.
Well, we won't drag out our viewers.
Right. Thanks for viewing, you guys who were live. This was great.
And those of you who tune in at a later
Yeah.
date. And I will be uploading these talks onto a YouTube, and I'll let people know what that is when that's sort of like, kind of ready to go. But these conversations are important.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone who's supporting like the soul of the Great Awakening. Lisa, we'll do it again together.
I'd like that. That'd be great.
Love to you, blessings to you. I will be talking
as well.
tomorrow.
Love you, girl.
Okay. We'll
have a great night.
Soon. Everyone take care and stay inward. And I agree with Lisa, like it really is like it's all gonna be okay.
Right.
Look for the opportunities within it,
Mm-hmm.
It's all gonna be okay.
And if you're experiencing something now, just ask for help if you need it, and reach out to others, and you'll get through it.
And
we get through
reach
it.
out to me. Like I am here to help people, learn how to make that interconnection, and what does that feel like? What does that look like? And I'm definitely here to support people. Like, we're here. So, okay.
All right. You take care.
Okay. See you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, everyone.